You've done a lot of work in the nonprofit space. What led you to nonprofit work?
It was by chance. Actually, one day I was sitting at work and I got an email from the executive director from Hope Station inviting me to join the board.
Welcome to another episode of the Resilient Ones podcast, where we're focused on helping people like you become their best selves. And one of the greatest ways to do this is through the telling of stories and learning from other people's lived experiences. Today, I have an amazing guest with me, Safronia Perry, the owner of Perry Consulting and Coaching LLC. She offers consulting services to nonprofits and entrepreneurs. She's a council member at the Carlisle Borough, former executive director at Hope Station, and she's done a ton of volunteer work with nonprofit organizations in central Pennsylvania. Welcome, Safronia.
Thank you.
Thank you for taking that time to sit with me today.
You're welcome. Thank you for
And
asking.
I do have some structured questions, but it will be a conversation.
Okay.
So let's start with sharing a little bit about your background. Who's Safronia? Where did you grow up?
So Safronia is was a little country girl. I was born in Georgia in a small town called Fitzgerald. And then we moved here when I was about 5. I've lived here in Carlisle for the majority of my life. There was another time whenever I moved back to Georgia. There was also a time whenever I lived in Harrisburg. But for the most part, I've been here in Carlisle. I've got 2 sons, 34 and 25. I know it's hard to admit that I got a
I don't
34-year-old.
believe it.
And 2 grandkids. I have a grandson who's 4 and a granddaughter who will be 2 next month. And who I am is, that's a hard question for me to answer. I'm always evolving into somebody different. I mean, I'm still me, but as I'm growing, I'm evolving and I'm discovering new things, new things that excite me, and new things that I say I don't want to be a part of anymore. So I'm someone who believes in growth.
That's excellent. That's
Yeah.
excellent. And you've done a lot of work in the nonprofit space. What led you to nonprofit work?
It was by chance. Actually, one day I was sitting at work and I got an email from the executive director from Hope Station inviting me to join the board. To this day, I still have no clue how he got my email address or
Yeah.
what made him think about inviting me to join this board.
Mhm.
It took me a couple of days to make a decision because I didn't know anything about nonprofit at all.
Mhm.
I didn't know anything about nonprofit, what it did, what my role would be. Um, but then I thought about, I lived right there in the Hope Station. They were actually across the street from Hope Station. And I thought, you know what, I grew up in this neighborhood. My kids are growing up in this neighborhood. If there's a way that I can be involved in how, what we do for this community, then you know what, let me try it and let me see. I had no idea that I was going to get so involved and that, it would be something that I really enjoy doing.
Would you say that helped you to find purpose?
Yes.
And we're going to talk a little bit more about purpose later on. So, can you talk to me about maybe some challenges and obstacles that you've faced in your personal and professional life?
Whew. Well, I will say as far as professional and personal, I find myself wanting to do something always. Like I don't give myself a lot of downtime.
Yep.
I'm always, I could be in a meeting somewhere, I could be out with friends somewhere and something pops up, in the space that we're in. And then I get this idea like, oh, this would be great. And maybe we could do this and maybe
Yeah.
we could do that. And so it keeps me busy. And sometimes I have to stop myself to say, you know what, you already have a lot of things that are going on. You need to take a little bit of time and maybe not do this, maybe not rush into doing it. Like, and maybe if that's something that you want to do
Yep.
in the future, kind of push that back because I am learning. I'm learning how to do more self-care
Okay.
for myself, and that is not an easy
Yeah.
thing. And that was even before I started working in nonprofit. I've never been one to just kind of sit back and relax. It's always been, okay, I'm going here, I'm doing this, I'm doing that.
Yeah.
Regardless, hanging out or whatever the case was.
Yeah.
I was never one to just sit and relax and allow my body to just relax.
Yeah. When people say self-care to me, I immediately think about something must have happened for you to start thinking about self-care.
Realizing that I give so much, um, and I don't know uh, exactly how that happened, but I give so much to not just the people in my community, but
Yep.
to my family.
Yep.
And I say there's no way that I can do the work that I do in the community and not be there for my family. So I give a lot of myself. Um, sometimes I feel like I'm being pulled in a lot of different positions, and by a lot of different
Yeah.
people.
Yep.
But I don't regret that, and it's nothing that I complain about, because it lets me know that people want to be in my realm, or that people want to hear from me, or they think that I can assist them with something. So it doesn't make me feel, like, oh my gosh, not again. It's just that whenever I'm available to everybody, I'm not taking any time for myself. And for me, self-care is not, I mean, don't get me wrong. I love the idea of going to the spa, getting a massage, or going shopping or something like that. But sometimes for me, self-care is I'm just not getting off the couch today.
So did you experience burnout?
Yes.
Because again, like when I hear self-care, like it's a very specific, my ears perk up. It's something occurred to you that I really need to step back and take care of myself.
Yes.
So what was that thing? Was that anxiety, depression? Was that burnout?
It was burnout.
Burnout, okay.
It was burnout. I realized I was doing a lot of things. So whenever I was the director of Hope Station, because of how I felt about the organization, I was so passionate about it. I gave so much.
Yep.
So it got a lot of my mental energy. It got a lot of my physical energy. But then as I started evolving myself personally, I was doing things outside of Hope Station as well.
Yeah.
And those were things that I wanted to continue to do. So I had to make a choice. If I really care about this organization, if I can't give 100%, it's not fair for me to stay here and not be able to give 100% to it as I've done in the past. And then I'm really enjoying this and watching myself evolve and watching what was happening in my life. So it did get to a point where, I mean, I was doing a lot, my granddaughter was almost due, and, I was spending a lot of time in Lancaster with my son and his family, and then I was working, and I just really wasn't getting any time for myself, and there was something wrong. I just couldn't figure out what it was. And it was, I'm doing too much.
Yeah. And I think it's hard. It's hard to be all things to all people, what I learned is, especially in regards to leadership, is that part of the leader's job is to create other leaders.
Yes.
And so what you need to do is create some more Safronians, and so you can help to, groom and what do you call it? Can't find the word.
Mentor.
Mentor, yeah. You can help to mentor some additional folks and help them, train them in the ways of the Jedi. And,
I think also it's just like I said, it's something that's in my nature, because it's the same way with my family.
Yeah.
If they need something, they know. Yeah. They know who to call.
Where to go to.
My friends, they know who to call, and I'm going to be there. And I think I just wasn't given enough time for myself.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. I can understand that completely. Now, what role do you feel like mindset and your personal values play in you being able to accomplish so much? It's not typical that an individual can handle that many things, being pulled in so many directions and balance and competing priorities. Is it a mindset thing? Is it just, I learned this from my mother, I saw this example?
I mean, I think it's a combination of things. My mom has always, and my uncle, excuse me, my mom and my uncle, it's the way that they were raised. I mean, I could see that with my grandma. My grandma was, she was the oldest in her family, and her mom died in childbirth. And so she raised her siblings.
Yeah.
You know, my one grand aunt, she raised from a baby. You know, my grandma was 17 years old. But watching as she raised her kids, she raised her sisters, and then she helped to raise their children. And she was always that person that everybody came to
Yeah.
because she was the oldest.
Mhm.
And then I watched that same thing with my mom.
Mhm.
She was the person that everybody came to. She
Yeah.
was the person who, you know, took care of my grandmom. And then, you know, my grand aunt when she got sick and was that my mom was there.
Mhm.
She was there for the family. Oh, I'm gonna run to the store. I will do this for you. I will do that. My uncle is the same way.
Yeah.
You know, the family would contact him if there's something happening. He's the one
Mhm.
down south that they contact. And so I think it's that, and I think also it's just I don't know. You know, we've been talking a lot about the roles that we play in our families,
Yeah.
and how sometimes that might mold and shape who you are in the work that you do.
Yep.
And maybe that's it. Being
Mhm.
the oldest, feeling like you know I have to.
Mhm.
You know, I'm the oldest,
Yeah.
so I need to take care and be there for my
Yeah.
mom, but I need to make sure that my siblings are good also, you know, and then also, I mean, I love people. Um, I want to be a good person, and I'm very intentional about that. I'm intentional about being nice. I'm
Mhm.
intentional about being a good person, and I am intentional about being there for people that I care about,
Yeah.
my friends, my family. You know, people who are just looking for some help. I'm very intentional about that. So I think it's a lot of different
Yeah.
things.
I can say that you've always had this great energy, and we keep bumping into each other in the grocery store.
Yeah.
Just always had this great energy, and just seem very open, and I see how you are in the community. Some of the events I've seen, you know. So let's see. What would you say are some key lessons you've learned from your journey that you think could help other people?
Um, I think uh, learning who you are.
Mhm.
Learning who you are and making that decision to, you know, do what it is that you want to do. Do what it is that you feel is good for you. You know, I'll say that it took me a long time to really have direction
Mhm.
and really know what I wanted to do. This isn't something that I had ever thought about, and I can be honest, I never pictured myself in the rooms and in the spaces
Yeah.
that I'm in now. That
Mhm.
wasn't anything that I saw for
Yeah.
myself. Um, I didn't, it's not that I didn't feel like I had any purpose. It's
Mhm.
just that, you know, there were other things that I at one
Yeah.
point thought, you know what, this is what's important.
Yeah.
And then, you know, just stepping into the space
Mhm.
and being invited to participate, I
Mhm.
think is what sealed it for me.
Yeah.
I think, you know, you might not understand or
Mhm.
know what it is that
Mhm.
you're supposed to do
Yeah.
really early. It's good if you
Mhm.
do at a young age, that's
Mhm.
great. But I say it doesn't matter what age you are.
Yeah.
When you realize it, when you know this is what I want, this is
Mhm.
who I am,
Mhm.
it's never too late. It's not too late until you
Yeah.
die.
Yeah. I think I went through that in the last couple of years. I think my purpose is to help other people, and it's my profession is separate from my purpose.
Right.
The profession is to, you know, take care of the family, pay the bills, and so
Yeah.
forth. But I think about purpose a lot because I think about death. Like
Hmm.
eventually we're not going to be here.
Right.
So if I was at my own funeral, did I actually do anything with myself? You know, if I didn't help, if I made a ton of money and I helped nobody,
Yeah.
then I failed.
Yeah.
Right? Because money is not, you know, it's not everything.
Yeah.
But I want to be able to, you know, was I a good father? Was I a good husband? Was I a good son? Was I a good uncle?
That was that thing
You
for
know?
me.
Yeah.
Like, you know, I wanted to be somebody that my kids could be proud of.
Mhm.
I really did.
Mhm.
You know, I was young when I had my oldest son. I was 20 years old when I had him.
Yeah.
And you know, it not that I regret having him or
Mhm.
my youngest son
Yeah.
at all, but you know, I felt like I didn't give
Mhm.
them
Mhm.
what I could have given them if I knew
Mhm.
what I wanted to do, if
Mhm.
I had taken a different
Mhm.
direction,
Yep.
you know. But what I said was, I want for them to be able to tell my
Mhm.
grandchildren that, you know what,
Mhm.
your grandmom, she tried.
Yeah. Yep.
You know, if there's nothing else that they could say is that she
Mhm.
tried
Yeah.
every day. She tried to be a good
Mhm.
person.
Mhm.
And she tried to live life,
Mhm.
you know, the best that she could
Yeah.
and live it with purpose. You know, I don't, I can't say that I necessarily, like, I don't spend a lot of time thinking about legacy per
Yeah.
se, but more just, am I making my kids
Mm.
proud? Am I
Yeah.
making
Yeah.
my mom proud?
Hmm. Yeah.
Those are the things that keep me motivated is, I know that they're proud. I know that they love me, and
Mm.
I know that they see me out here and
Yeah.
can say, you know what? My mom spent her life
Mhm.
just trying.
I completely I understand that. It resonates. Like I don't want to embarrass my mother or my kids. I don't want them to have to hide, you know? And what's funny is a lot of people know me in the community. And so I think about that. If I'm in traffic and someone does something weird, I'm like,
Hmm.
you know what? I'm
Yes.
gonna let it slide because my reputation is important. Not
Yes.
just to me, but it's impactful,
Yes.
you know? So yeah, I think about those things, and not the legacy from a standpoint of I want to be remembered,
Right.
but I want to have done something,
Yes.
and even if it's just helping one person,
Yeah.
I want to have done something so that if I'm conscious in that last moment, I can say, well, did my best, man. I
Yeah.
don't know what to tell you.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Let's see. Are you a big reader? You like,
I am. I love reading.
yeah,
I don't read
hmm,
as much as I used to because I
yeah,
don't have the time like
yeah,
that. And then whenever I am just kind of sitting around, I'm just kind of sitting around
yeah,
or dozing.
yeah.
But I love reading.
Yeah, I read mostly like leadership and business books. So I hated reading when I was in school because I was being forced to read.
Oh, okay.
But now I read because I want to read.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
it was always a thing, and I think, that was, my mom was a voracious reader, and she
yeah,
read to us when we were kids,
mm-hmm,
and then I just started reading, and I enjoyed it.
mm-hmm,
Um, but it needs to be a book that I can get
yeah,
lost in.
yeah,
So sometimes it's not a matter of, oh, I think this would be a good book. Like I
mm-hmm,
really take my time and I
yeah,
read like the back of it, like what is this about?
mm-hmm,
And then I'm like, okay, let me try this. Let me read this book. If
yeah,
I don't start to get lost in it
yeah.
after like page two,
It's kind of hard to get. Yeah,
yeah, so sometimes it's there are books that are their enjoyment, and
mm-hmm,
sometimes they're books
mm-hmm.
that are about Black history and
Okay,
Black culture.
okay,
Those books, it's so because it's learning. So
mm-hmm,
I'm not just
yeah,
reading for the enjoyment.
yeah,
I'm also reading
yeah,
to learn. So it just
mm-hmm,
depends, but I really do try to read books
mm-hmm,
now from Black authors,
yeah.
as many as
Yeah.
possible.
And it's the same thing for me. I want to read. Like I said, I didn't like to read when I was in school because I was forced to read. But I dealt with anxiety and depression, and I started to watch a lot of content and read a lot about mental health.
Yeah.
And then, as a leader in IT, I wanted to be the best leader possible, so I
Right.
started reading leadership books. And so
Yes.
I started to hoard books. If you notice behind you, there's a ton.
But
That
there's nothing wrong
that
with
is
that.
just half of them.
There's nothing wrong
Yeah,
with that. Like I don't have
yeah,
this many
yeah,
books,
yeah,
but I got
yeah,
about
yeah,
maybe
yeah.
about that. I
Well,
gave a bunch
you,
away,
you're
but
gonna leave with at least two.
hey, listen, I
Yeah,
take one.
yeah. So one of the reasons I started collecting books, I was gonna do an online used bookstore, and then I realized the markup. It's like how much am I gonna sell it for, and the time, and then I decided, you know what? There's certain authors and certain subject matters that I appreciate,
Yeah.
and maybe I can give those to other people.
Okay.
Again, coming back to purpose, it's like
Yeah.
in every way, in everything that I do, I want to see if I can help somebody.
Yeah.
So whether it's a kind word, whether it's giving somebody at the stoplight $20, whether it's giving somebody a book,
Yeah.
how can I, invest in another person's
Yeah.
journey? So I have a book that I think you might like. I don't know if
Okay.
have you know Simon Sinek? Have you heard
Okay.
of Start With Why?
No.
Okay, so I'm gonna give you. That's one of the ones I'm gonna give you today.
Okay.
So a lot of these books they're written from a business perspective,
Yeah.
but I like to use business strategies and apply it to real life.
Yeah.
Like even when you think about project management, right? We still have to manage our time and our
Yes.
budgets, right? And priorities in our personal lives.
Yes.
So we do these things at work, and we manage everything at work, and we're great at work, but in our personal lives, we're like
Yeah.
falling apart. So I like the idea of taking business strategies and applying them to a personal life and say, okay, how can I,
Yeah.
if this was a company, how can
Yeah.
I make it more efficient?
Yeah.
You could offer one piece of advice to someone who feels stuck or overwhelmed right now. What would that be?
Stuck or overwhelmed. Um, I would say, because I'm doing this myself, I would say if you're trying to figure some things out, there's nothing wrong with, you know, speaking to a counselor. Like it really isn't. Because sometimes, you know, you don't necessarily have the answer, and sometimes it is you're really just trying to figure out. You might not even understand what it is that you're feeling. I
Yeah.
can say that I don't always understand exactly what it is that I'm feeling, because I'm also one who hides
Yeah.
a lot of feelings.
Yeah.
You know, like, you know, I can be in my own, I'm in my own head, in my
Yeah.
own space, but that's something that only I
Yeah.
know, and I don't show that to
Yeah.
others. But I am learning that it really is okay to be able to seek help, and I don't look at it like, you know, there are people like, oh, you know, it's a head shrink, or you feeling crazy. It's nothing like that.
Yep.
Sometimes you just need to be able to talk to somebody that's outside of, they don't know you,
Yeah.
you know, and
Yeah.
they're just taking some time to listen to you. You know, there's no judgment in what they're hearing, because they're outside of it.
Yeah.
You know, there's no judgment. I think that, you know, being able to say, like, you know what, I'm feeling a little intense, and I don't know what to do with these feelings, or I think that I might start feeling that right now.
Yeah.
For me, you know, there's a lot of things that are going on, and I just decided that, you know, and understanding there's been a lot of transitions in my life in the last, you know, like 2 years, I would say. And while I'm not feeling like anxious or depressed,
Yeah.
I want to make sure that I don't feel anxious or depressed.
Yeah.
So being able to talk some things out, I feel like it's helping. Like whenever I leave the conversation, I feel a little bit of relief, because I don't share
Yeah.
a lot about my personal feelings or things that I'm going through personally sometimes. So I say, if you're feeling overwhelmed, if you're feeling stuck, you know, even if it's just a friend that you're
Yeah.
talking to, find somebody that you feel that you can confide in, that you trust with your feelings,
Yeah.
and just spend that time talking with them.
Yeah.
Go for walks, you know, step back from things, because sometimes it's you got a lot of things going on, and you just need to take a little bit of time and step back.
Yeah. Absolutely. And
Thank you.
a lot of men struggle with this idea of talking to a therapist. You know, I did. I was like, I don't want to talk to a therapist. And even though the therapist can't solve the problem, just speaking to somebody who, again, sometimes it's good to talk to a stranger,
Yes.
because then you know that, all right, well, this person doesn't know my friends and family, so
Right.
I don't have to worry about them telling them.
Right.
You know, and these people are trained too
Yes.
to have these conversations. And this is one of the reasons I wanted to start the podcast.
Yeah.
First, it was I thought about, okay, I know black men especially don't go to the doctor as much and don't get counseling, and then I was like, well, all men are kind of struggling, certain, you know. And then I was like, well, I don't want it to limit it just to men, so I was like, you know what, I'm gonna create a community for all people, whoever is struggling, whoever this message can help,
Yeah.
you know, whoever these stories can help. It's just I'm gonna leave it open, and it's it's a human experience that we're all sharing.
Yeah.
You know, and not that race and these things don't matter, but those are you know, that's a small part of being a human, right? So race, gender, it's important, and we should celebrate them, but we shouldn't allow them to necessarily dictate everything we do. You know.
And see, and I think I will say, I stand so firm and so tall in my blackness,
Yeah.
and I
Yeah.
want people to know that.
Yeah.
And it's not a matter of, oh, if she's using race against this. No, but this is who I am, and
You
I
gotta be
think,
proud of who you are.
yes, and I think that, you know, when you can acknowledge certain things, that are in your life, and some of the pressures that you have, because
Yeah.
sometimes some of the pressures that you have are because, unfortunately, the color
That
of
might
your
be
skin was
unique
still
to you.
there.
Yeah, that might be unique to you.
But
And so,
sometimes, you know, we understanding that we all have something.
yeah.
There, you know, no matter,
Yeah.
you know, the color of your skin,
Yep.
no matter how much money you have,
Yeah.
you know, or don't have, we all have something.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so it is, you know, how do I navigate through some of those things?
Yeah.
And talking to a therapist, or talking to somebody that you trust, even if it's a stranger,
Yeah.
but not necessarily like a therapist, but somebody that you I think that sometimes you can connect with people
Energy.
and you feel
Yeah.
like, you know what, I
Mm-hmm.
feel like I can share
Mm-hmm.
with this person. Now, I don't typically do that.
Yeah.
If I don't know you,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know, hey, how
Yeah.
you doing?
Yeah.
It's certain things you're not gonna get from me,
Yeah.
but if you feel a connection with somebody
Yep.
and you feel like you can share, I say share.
Yeah. You said something earlier, and you know, you talked about how being busy and so forth. One of the things that I learned is sometimes people stay busy to not experience the feelings. So depressed people like to be busy, and sometimes the danger is your friends that seem happy and they
Yeah.
appear to have everything together. Sometimes they're actually more depressed.
Oh wow.
Then yes, because on the surface it looks like everything is going great.
Yeah.
And they are making money. They're busy. They're doing all these things.
Yeah.
When I served on 6 nonprofit boards at the same time.
That's a lot.
I was doing a lot of stuff. You know
That's a
why?
lot.
I wanted to escape my emotions, and I wanted to do it in a positive way because
Yeah.
there's a lot of stuff you can do with your time.
Yeah.
And I was like, I have too much time in my hands, so let me go serve. But
Yeah.
through serving, then I started to actually find purpose.
Yeah.
And I think all of that came full circle to now thinking, how can I positively impact other people? You know, initially I was thinking I'm just going to sit in front of the camera and talk, but I'm not an expert at these things. And I think it makes sense to just have conversations with real people.
Yeah.
We all have different lived experiences. You know, like you said, being black is a different experience, but it's still a human experience, right? And some people are gonna resonate with certain things, and some people won't.
Yeah.
And so, what I want to do is have a variety of guests that have these different experiences, and hopefully, even if 10 people got something from it, I think it's beneficial. You know.
Yeah.
I'm gonna ask you 2 last questions because I don't want to take all your time. Let's see. What are you most proud of in your journey so far? If there was one thing.
That I decided to take a step. You know, I spent a lot of my time, especially as an adult, feeling insecure about things. And that's something that I think is easy to hide.
Yeah.
And people don't, you know, you don't always show it
Yeah.
that, you know, you're insecure about certain things. But, you know, I let fear stop me from doing certain things. I really did. And because of that, you know, my life was different because I let fear kind of rule it and stop it. And I am really proud that I made the decision to take the chance.
Yeah.
You know, starting my own business and saying, you know what, I'm leaving a job, you know, and I'm doing something that, you know, it's when you're starting a business, I mean, you know, you got to think about like, am I going to make enough money, you know, right away? Like I got bills and I got things. But when I thought about it some more, I was like, you know what, I'm not going to be scared to do this. My sons, both of them are grown. They've got, you know, they're in their own homes. Like I don't have that fear that I had to, you know, really worry about. And so I decided to take that leap and really have faith in myself, which I'd not done before. So I'm very proud of myself for doing that. And you know what? This is the first time that I've actually said that. That's the first time that I've actually said that I am proud of myself.
I'm proud of you
for
too.
Doing that.
I'm proud of you.
Thank you.
You know what? I want you to take a couple of minutes to talk about your consulting business.
Okay.
Because there are a lot of people that will see this within this community, what might be part of your target audience. Tell the audience a little bit about you know, what you do.
So with the consulting, you know, when I decided that I wanted to step out on my own, I was thinking, well, when I made the decision to leave Hope Station, like I didn't have a job. Like I was like, okay, I'm gonna leave. And it wasn't right away that I left, but it was I'm gonna leave, and I didn't have a job, and so I started looking for different jobs. Like, okay, so I've got some months. Let me look at what I'm interested in. And what I realized is, you know what, you're already doing things that you're interested in. Why not make that a business? And nonprofit is something that, you know, I have really enjoyed. And it's been a big part of my life now for a long time. And so I decided, okay, I'm going to do nonprofit. And then I was, I really believe in making sure that there's equity in the Black community.
Yep.
As we struggle with things and we understand the systems that are set up, it's
Yep.
important that we say, okay, we've got to put our businesses
Yep.
up and we need to support them. So my business, the nonprofit side, I do board development. That one I'm really, really comfortable with because, I've been on 1,000 boards.
Yeah.
I've done, taken a couple classes in nonprofit management.
Yeah.
And so I decided I wanted to do board development. There are organizations that that begin and they're new.
Yeah.
And they've not served on a board before.
Yeah.
So, let's talk to the board members. Or sometimes they just need their board members to hear the message of what it is to be a good board member,
absolutely.
to be involved. And then I've done that wasn't initially, I did strategic planning with a client. That was not initially what I was going to do. I thought, you know what, I'll take my time with that because there's a lot that goes into doing strategic planning. But so strategic planning now that went really well is what I offer. I'm actually working with an organization helping to put a team program together. So I'll be working with the YW and helping them put a team program together for Black girls. And so those are things that I offer. If it's, well, we need help planning events. Well, then I can help plan events for an organization. And then for businesses, I said, there are some, when you're an entrepreneur and it's just you, and you don't have staff, you're doing everything. So, if there's a business that's like, what, I need help with networking or I need help with looking for grants, then okay. I can help you look for some grants.
The grants piece is big.
Yeah,
That's big, and it's hard to. There's too much information out there.
Yes,
you're not sure where to look.
Yes, and while I'm not crazy about writing grants, if that's something that they're needing, and and I can look at it and say, okay, here's a number of grants that are available. I can look at this, and if you're needing some help with writing this grant, then okay. But then also helping them if they're looking for. Okay, so we need I need a networking event, or I need help with this event that I'm doing. Kind of being that person to step in and to, or if there's there are workshops that are happening and they want to get to the workshop because the information that is going to be given is important and they need it, but they can't get there. Okay, well, you know what? I can go, let me check out the date. I can go to this event. I can report back to you. I can tell you what is needed.
All right, I'm gonna ask you one last thing here. Is there a particular quote, mantra? Like, is there something that inspires you that you look to? Some people it's a scripture or something. Is there a book, a quote, something that really? It might be many things, but when you think about inspiration and what inspires you to move and continue doing things, is there something you could think of, pinpoint?
There's nothing in particular that I can pinpoint. There are. So I'm one also. I just read a lot of things. So if you're on Facebook with me, there's pages, a lot of pages that I follow. And if I see a particular quote that identifies with me, that's something that I'm going to share. So it really is what I see, and it says, it speaks to me, it's helping me mentally. And maybe if I share this quote, somebody else will see it and it'll help them. But I will say that for the most part, it's just my faith, and I feel like it's getting stronger and stronger. I'm not going to sit here and say that I go to church every Sunday. I grew up in the church. And then I joined the church, but I can't say that like I'm sitting in church every Sunday. But I will say this, that regardless to that, my faith has never wavered in God. I believe in God, and I know that even whenever I'm not happy with him, I look at it like, you're when you're in church, the preacher will say, he's the father.
Yeah.
Okay, well,
Yeah.
you know what? We can all acknowledge we're not always happy with our parents.
Yeah.
And I look at it like that, but I also look at it as, he's guiding me, and that faith helps me to get through hard times.
Yeah.
It does. Believing that it's going to get better no matter how hard it is what gets me through the hard times. Having that faith and that belief that, it's not going to always be like this. And one day, things are going to look different.
Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, things cannot remain the same, right? Even if you just laid in bed and did nothing, you're gonna get older. So things cannot remain the same. And same thing for me. I think I'd say, God's not found in the church anyway. God's inside you, right?
Exactly,
It's in you. It's with you at all times. And it's less about doing and more about what's inside.
Yeah.
How do you love people? Do you care for people?
Yes.
Because you can go to church every day and not care for people.
Yes.
And you're not, but one of the reasons why I believe that everything is going to be okay is I remember where I'm coming from.
Mm-hmm.
So I remember the things that were not okay, and I remember coming through it.
Mm-hmm.
So now I have zero doubt.
Mm-hmm.
I have no doubt that things are going to be better.
Yeah.
No doubt at all. I'm like, sometimes I have to laugh. Sometimes I'm like, God, you are insane. I'm serious.
Some of the conversations I have with
I talk to God like that. I'm like, God, you are
too.
crazy. Well, I can't believe you did. I can't believe I got through this thing.
Yeah, I do too. Some of my conversations with him. But then I'm like, I know he sits around talking about me. But then I'm like, well, he already knew I was going to say this. That's what, I do. My conversations are so different.
It's like, what now?
But I decided that, what, I just want to be authentic.
Yeah.
And if I'm being authentic in the conversations that I have with him, if he already knows within my mind anyway, then why not just have that conversation? I'm not hiding it.
Isn't it easier to just be yourself?
It really is.
It's like,
it is
so less stressful.
Freeing.
Trying to be somebody else or trying to be what people want.
It's free.
Yeah,
I can't imagine trying to be anybody else.
Yep.
And that doesn't mean that I don't look at some people and say, oh my gosh, it must be nice to not have to worry about this.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I am who I am. And I've learned that that's good.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And you are who you are for a reason. You're here for a reason. It's important.
Yes.
And there's a reason why you're my first guest.
Well, thank you.
Because there's something and again, it's not like I know you personally.
Yeah.
But there's something about you that from a distance, I can tell that there's something special.
Oh.
Right? And so that's why I wanted to talk to you, and I appreciate you coming out. I want to give you this book. Can you pass that book? You can give out any other book you want too, but this one, Simon Sinek, Start With Why. It's really about, finding your why, which is purpose.
Yeah.
It is written from a business perspective, but I think the lessons in here are applicable.
But that's good, because I will say that I've been, there are some books and some articles, that I've seen online that I'm reading, because I'm also starting, so I've started my own nonprofit as well.
Yeah. Okay.
And the things that I've been able to read kind of help, because I'd never done that before.
Yeah.
So, being able to take some of that knowledge and applying it to the work that I'm doing has been helpful. And so books like these, are helpful because while it's a nonprofit, it's still a business.
It's still a business.
Yeah, it's still
just
a business.
it's just a tax status, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
No, yeah, I definitely.
Thank you.
Yeah, when we're done recording, I'm gonna look back here and see if there's any other books that you like.
Okay.
But yeah, I feel like that's the value. Like them sitting on the shelf isn't worth anything to me. If and I'm not gonna read all of them. I'm not. I calculated how long it would take me to read all of them. A very long time. So I want to share them with other people. You. And I think I have this big idea about what this podcast could be.
Yeah.
Ultimately, I would like to do some book reviews, and maybe we can do that. Maybe you and I read the same book.
Yeah.
And maybe we do some book reviews or something.
Okay, that's a good idea.
But I'd definitely love to tell me how I can help you with a nonprofit or anything else you're doing, and think about it.
I will.
Anything else you're doing that you think I could help in any way? Let's talk and see. But I'm excited about what you're doing, and I appreciate you taking the time to speak with me.
Well, thank you for having me as your first guest. I'm honored. I am wishing you all the best with this podcast, I think having conversations and being able to put it out for others to see is is good.
Yeah.
And people they take different things
Yeah.
from it. So
Yeah.
so I wish that for you.
Absolutely. And like, you know what's cool? It's this human connection. Even though they're on a screen looking at us, they're looking at human beings having a conversation, you know? And you could kind of get some of it from a book, but you're not hearing the tone.
Right.
You're not seeing the body language. So I think this is powerful. You know?
Yes.
All right. Well, that's it, folks, for this episode of the Resilient Ones podcast. Stay tuned for other episodes coming out. If you're on YouTube, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share.